Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I wanted to give another pointless reflection of the past couple months. I actually had two separate videos that covered what I'll be talking about, but I had them unlisted because I thought they were pretty shit. So I won't be covering any new ground, but I wanted to post this anyway. If I had to pinpoint a single day in my life where things went wrong, it'd have to be October 22nd of last year. And you might be thinking, what happened? Did somebody close to me die? Maybe I went through a breakup or got diagnosed with an incurable disease. What really happened was far more boring, but no less destructive to my life's goal and sense of purpose. And that terrible thing was I failed an exam. And that might not sound like a huge deal, but to me, this exam was like a lifelong partner or a firstborn child. It was only right that I approach this with the proper care and respect, and I just let it down. And that one failure was enough to unravel pretty much everything I knew about my worldview and identity. I know that was really cringy, but let's just get on with the rest of the video. I wouldn't say I'm special. I think I'm unlike a lot of people my age. I'm in my 20s. I don't have much talent or motivation. But I did have privilege and convenience, making me luckier than most. If I was good at one thing, you could make the argument for school. I had a pretty strict upbringing with my parents, and they always made sure I prioritized it. Especially in today's environment, it's pretty foolish to be a perfectionist when it comes to academics. You have things like college tuition and the new graduate unemployment rate rising, along with generative AI making cheating more accessible and harder to detect. It's just difficult to make the same value proposition for pursuing higher education. But I never really questioned it too deeply, and once I got to college, I attached my academic performance to my identity and self worth as one of my many coping mechanisms to deal with my loneliness. At least on the surface, I was doing quite well over those 4 years. I was able to uphold this idealistic version of myself that the people in my life viewed as hardworking and intellectual. And it only felt natural to go into more education. So I ended up pursuing a master's degree in computer science, which I knew wasn't something I found interesting or was naturally gifted at, but I was feeling a bit overconfident from my performance in undergraduate, and I just went with something that I thought would impress people and land me a decent career. But almost immediately, I realized I made the wrong decision. For the first 6 weeks, there was this mental fog hanging over me. Like I knew what I was doing wasn't right, but I felt too guilty once I made the commitment, so I just ended up half assing everything and portraying this facade of control. My routine was pretty much I would go to class, take notes, and understand nothing, then head home and attempt to do some homework or study, eventually give up and let AI do it for me. I felt like an idiot, but I just couldn't bring myself to quit, and I put off actually learning anything, and the weeks just went by. Which goes to show how much of a fraud I was, because once the stuff I was learning became actually challenging, I just gave up. The only time I actually tried to learn the material was the week before midterms, but you can guess trying to cram 6 weeks of content into 1 week was pretty futile. So October 22nd finally arrives, my figurative judgment day. It's the midterm for my data structures and algorithms class, which I had to take as a preliminary course because I didn't have a bachelor's in CS, but that's besides the point. But this one class was the most important determinant on whether or not I could stay in my program because of the grade requirements and the exam weighting. I did the math, and the lowest grade on the exam I could get was a C or mid 70% to maintain a B average in the class. So I go into the exam, I just have an awful mental because even though I knew I studied the entire week prior, I just wasn't prepared enough. And walking out of the exam room, I already knew I had failed because I left like 20% of the questions blank. And if you must know, I did end up getting a 63 on the exam. So upon getting the news for that, I realized it was impossible for me to remain in my program. Also, I do want to mention that in past videos where I have discussed my situation, I've used the term dropout pretty frequently. But it's a poor choice of words because it implies a voluntary decision. I didn't drop out, I failed out of my program, because if I managed to pass that exam, things could have been different. I likely would have continued my study, and I probably wouldn't have made this shitty YouTube channel either. Because it was my lack of intelligence or inability to understand what I was studying that led me to this point. There's a lot of shame and self loathing around this realization. It's not that I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I needed to be doing the right thing, and it was just a lack of action that caused my failure. But that opportunity is long gone now. I mean, it's only been 3 months, but it feels like yesterday because I've mentioned previously, pretty much every day feels the same. Not saying a repetitive routine is something to be upset over. It's when you're not doing anything productive or working toward a larger goal, is when it starts to hurt your life. So I know it's cringe to say, but being in school was my livelihood. It gave me everything I needed: a struggle, an identity, a sense of accomplishment, and purpose. And I pretty much threw it away so I could play video games and feel sorry for myself. I know I'm not unique. This probably is something everybody goes through once in their life. They have some sort of identity crisis, they quit their job, or end a relationship. But in my case, I feel especially useless. Because when it comes to something like school that I've been doing my entire life, it's pretty challenging to just leave it all behind. I know people will tell me you just need to move on with your life, get over yourself, stop wasting time dwelling on the past, you can't change anything. I think those are all valid criticisms to make. And I have been trying to make an effort to move on and pivot towards some other goal, but it really hasn't been that easy. Well, only recently, starting January, have I actually been trying to improve my life. And for me, that means sending out a few job applications, exercising for a bit. Yeah, those are pretty much the only productive things I've been doing. Everything else is probably slowly killing me. I know I'm responding to decision fatigue in one of the worst ways possible, by not making any meaningful choices and still following the conventional steps to progress that everyone else preaches. I feel like it's still too early to say whether it's working out for me or not. What's made it challenging for me is I just can't help being angry with myself. I try not to blame the world or my external environment anymore, but my mindset does lead to an extreme amount of self hatred and constant criticism. Because I think it's way too childish to start blaming the people in my life for my failures, but I can't forgive myself either for messing up so badly. So I'm just in this constant cycle of criticizing myself for being too lazy, but I have no faith or confidence that I can improve, so I haven't really bothered to try that much. Like for me, it was never a matter of belief when it came to achieving my goals. I wanted to think of it like an objective matter. If I just managed to keep up my work ethic for the time I was in school, things would work out and I would somehow make that transition into the next stage of life, but I just feel so stuck. Yeah, honestly, I don't know where this video is going. I wish I could offer some advice or tangible solutions, but essentially, life isn't going so great for me. But it feels like I'm becoming more dependent on the internet to drown out my incessant negative thoughts. The days just keep going by and nothing is changing, or rather, I'm not the one changing. I mean, I haven't gone through much development over these past couple years. Back then, I could actually attribute my struggle and hard work to something. Now, chasing any goals just feels pretty hopeless. Again, going back to the idea of having no trust in myself, I'm making pathetic attempts at progress, and I don't even know who I'm supposed to be pleasing. Maybe my parents? I'm just in stasis. I'm not getting better, but I'm not getting worse either. I do know the right thing is to accept my situation and try to look towards the future in a level headed manner. Not trying to be too optimistic, but I don't want to give up all hope at the same time. But I do feel a lot of entitlement and frustration towards myself because I know I am capable of working hard, but with the environment I'm in right now, I'm just not able to make any meaningful progress. At the current moment, the meaning of my life is to get a job, but that's something I really don't want to do, nor do I feel like it's an achievable goal. And when I say job, I mean like something I could get that correlates to my degree, not some minimum wage thing. Like, I'm not entirely opposed to doing that, but I don't see much value given my current financial situation. Going back to school is a possibility, but being away from that environment for a while has made the flaws in the system a lot more apparent. Like I said at the start, the value of higher education is going down the drain, and the people who can secure a future for themselves aren't the smartest, but the most sociable, and I never bothered to practice that skill. I guess all this contemplation just goes to show how fragile my worldview was. All it took was one failure after 16 years of pursuing the same thing to render my life obsolete. Genuinely, I don't know where to take my life from here, as everything I've learned or experienced never prepared me for the life I have now. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of rambling. I don't expect anyone to provide me the answers I'm looking for. I'm also not very proud of this video in general. I've been in kind of a creative rut when it comes to making commentary because I'm a very boring person who has little life experience or unique perspectives to make content over. But YouTube is completely oblivious to my woes, so I'll just keep posting despite that until the algorithm gods decide to bless me. Alright, I want to apologize if you made it all the way through the video, and I hope your life is going okay.